cryptocurrencies. They cannot hear me. Okay, let me see if I can get you to this one to help. Okay, microphone, media settings. Okay. Hadn't picked up my big microphone. Can we hear each other now? G'day, Don. Haven't seen you on for a while. Let me know if you can hear me now. Testing, testing, testing. What about now? Now? Is this turned on? Looks like it's on to me. Yeah. Let's see if I can find the settings inside the room which will work. How is the sound now? Uh-huh. Okay. Can you hear see my picture at least? Welcome to the Grumpy Old Man's Guide to Bitcoin and Cryptocurrencies. Let me know if you can hear me now. Any sound? No sound, no sound. Jesus. Wait a second. Oh, we got sound. Fantastic. G'day, David. Haven't seen you around either for a while. So I have to state that I've only been trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and been interested for 1 month. I believe it's 1 month today, but I'm up 100%, over 100% at this point. And I have found this really, really interesting. I first got approached by this by a gentleman back in July. I was first interested in Bitcoin in 2011, and I didn't understand it. And a gentleman asked me, he'd been trading Bitcoin. He asked me what I thought about what the chart of Bitcoin was, and I started following it. So I got interested, and then Jen, one of the Profit Hunter Group members, started to talk about Bitcoin and was interested in it too. And so we work it from there. I provide a cryptocurrency review every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I also answer questions for my Profit Hunter Group Forex members on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And I've got to tell you, some of the things are fantastic. So welcome to the 28th. And this is, while Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are not regulated under Financial Advice Acts, I am regulated, and this is general advice only by Adesk Trading Proprietary Limited, a corporate authorised representative AR 289519 of Alpha Securities, AFSL 330757. This is general advice and does not constitute financial product advice and doesn't take into account your investment objectives, financial situations, or particular needs. It is not personal advice, it is general advice. And trading is risky, and as I say in my cryptocurrency review every morning, cryptocurrencies have unusual risks and unusually high risks, and it's important to remember this. So let's move on. Beautiful. So we'll talk about ICOs, we'll talk about Bitcoin, and this guide may change your life. Now, what do we have? Transmission breaking up. I have two different things. Okay, so we've done a little service here. Now, David, this may be you, it may be me. I'm running two big internet services at the moment, and hopefully the sound is okay. I think I know what might be doing with the sound. Is the sound okay? Is that better in terms of sound? Transmission's good in Brisbane, so it's the speed. What you might do is go to Chrome, David. Charles is saying it's fine. So in terms of health warning, this area is full of young, bright propeller heads. It was created by a propeller head. And it's also full of technobabble that I didn't understand for a long time. And so it's full of young people. Basically, I didn't understand what they were talking about. They were yabbering and yabbering and yabbering and going on about stuff. Has the sound, Henry from the Gold Coast, fantastic. Has the sound dropped out now? Okay, I'll enable the other microphone. This may create an echo. Let me know whether it's okay. Does that sound better? Okay. Sound should be better now. Sound all good? Did anyone have any other dropouts? Okay. The wonderful thing is I really do understand how market works, and there's something really important. You're going to learn what's good, bad, and indifferent for the Bitcoin crypto markets. And I'm not a propeller head. I just kind of like to learn charts, and I like to make things simple. It takes me a while to understand things and work out what the hell's going on. So you've probably had enough of me looking at my head. So I'm just going to reject my own head if I can. Turn the webcam off. And if you need me, just need to look at me, just tell me. Oh, you're in East Victoria, Andrew, are you? Whereabouts are you? My Phillip Island, I love being Phillip Island. Anyway, just there yesterday. I'm in Warrandyte today. Okay, so Bitcoin, what's it about? Let's go through a little bit of the history. It was first mooted in 2007 in a paper by somebody called Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, a gentleman called an Aussie dollar, and I'm on the Latrobe. Oh, cool. And Craig Wright claims to be the person who invented it. It was started in January 2009, and the first ever block has a timestamp on it as of the 3rd of January 2009 at 18:15:05 Greenwich Mean Time. So what does that mean? It means that something was created at 18:15. Now, the person who created it was the predominant early miner, the inventor. He was Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, a Satoshi is the smallest Bitcoin you can have, which is something like 0.000005 of a Bitcoin. And what happened was he conferred the right upon himself to get some Bitcoin for the next 10 days and mine them. At that point, he probably had no idea how much he was going to get or whether it was going to be worth anything at all at that stage. So, so he had no idea what he was in for. He had no idea whether he was going to make money, but he floated something. And at the moment, none of the Bitcoin that he got, which is something like, I think it's about 10 million Bitcoin. No, 1 million Bitcoin. Apologies, I'm being a bit hyperbolic there. None of them being used. And there's actually a lot of Bitcoin that have not been used. And one of the problems with Bitcoins is because it's secret, because it's a bit esoteric, people who die may not be able to put them in wills, or may not have put them in wills. Their kids may not be able to find them. Their family may not be able to find them. So it's a little bit of a black hole when it comes to your finances. So you need to make sure that somebody, write this down. If you're going to be involved in this, make sure somebody knows what you're doing and you can access your stuff. It's as simple as that. So write it down, because people die, and you might too one day. So the public Bitcoin transaction log basically says that the guy who created it owns roughly 1 million Bitcoin. And currently that would be $6 billion US. Well, actually more likely now, that would be probably in the order of 7 or 8 now, because it's gone up since August. Now, they also created some hard forks, which we might talk a little bit about shortly. And okay, so we see basically there's other stuff in there. So basically, given all of the esoteric stuff and given all the techno babble, it's simply a computer program money store. It was a store of value and a method of exchange. And in fact, where it came from originally was he put it up on sourceforge.net, which is a free source software. It's an open source software setup. So it's pretty fascinating little puppy. Very fascinating little puppy. Okay, so let's talk about Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus PayPal and the transactions per second that it can do. So Bitcoin is mooted as a payment system, and there's a lot of fuss saying that it gets away from the banks, and it gets the banks are scared because of Bitcoin and the payment system. Now we'll talk a little bit about that now. So Bitcoin is a payment system. Bitcoin, and really it's the amount of transactions that are important in the security of in a payment system. It's the amount of transactions, the speed of transactions, the reliability of transactions, the security of transactions, and the trustability of transactions that are important for a payment system. Is that not true? So at the moment, Visa can do 1,667 transactions per second. Bitcoin can do 3 to 4 transactions per second. PayPal can do 193 transactions per second. And Ethereum, which is 10 or so, 5 to 10 times faster than Bitcoin, can do 193 transactions per second, right? So most of the things that forks do is to try to improve Bitcoin's usability in the world. Kevin says, I lost my wallet takes on a new meaning. That's right. I like that. Kevin's always good with the pithy statements for our Profit Hunter Group members in the morning. Keeps me cackling all the time. So what's all this fuss about? The other thing forks are directed at is basically only, I believe, 1 megabyte of data is allowed in a block, in a Bitcoin block. And I'll show you what a block looks like a little bit later on. So, and you'll get to see that shortly. So Visa shits all over Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as PayPal, for the amount of transactions they can do a second. MasterCard's probably up there in the same region. So let's have a look at what goes on in Bitcoin land. There are things called miners, and I have the ability to watch 4 miners on an app. And these miners are called F2 Pool at the moment, or at least early this morning. F2 Pool had mined 466.369 Bitcoin, and it had made something like 43,780 transactions to get $2 million, $2,690,000 US dollars, right? Bitfury has done 3,367 transactions up to that point during the day for 621 Bitcoin, $3.5 million US dollars it's made. BTCC Pool has done 19,848 transactions, 16,000 US dollars, or 2.78 thousand Bitcoin. BW Pool has done 9,575. There are other miners out there. There are other pools out there. And basically 22 million US dollars worth have been mined, and nearly 4,000 Bitcoin have been mined. The basis of the Bitcoin is a thing called a ledger, which basically allows you to confirm. It allows you to confirm all of the Bitcoins that you need to do. Basically, it allows people to confirm transactions. So what happens is miners get involved with the payments process. Anytime you move, buy, sell Bitcoin, there is a mining fee. Something to think about. It's something that stunned me, because they were talking about how good the payment system was and how it worked and how beautiful it was and how everything was getting away from the banks. But we see miners being banks. Let's move on. So here's another look at the miners. This is the unspent portion, and I'm sorry this may be a little bit out of whack, but we see the miners unspent portion, and we'll go and have a look inside the ledger in a second. That's a little bit out of order, but that's not. This is the ledger. So what it said here is that Bitfury has spent 9.9 Bitcoin for 57,000 US dollars. BTC Pool received and mined 14 at 3:54 a.m. I think that's Australian time, for 80,000 US dollars. BTCC mined 1 at 1:29 a.m. So all of this information is publicly available information. It's not private, it's publicly available information. And yet that's why they can see the blockchain that the crybaby or the WannaCry hackers who blackmailed people about a year ago, they could see the money go into their blockchain because they requested it there. Everything was public. They just couldn't see who it was who did it. So here we have the Bitcoin, and forgive me, I have to juggle this a little bit. I've done something a bit esoteric here. Okay, I think this is going to be a better way of showing it. Okay, so there's the ledger. We see when we look at BTTC, we can see what block number they have. 80 million in that 80,000 US dollars, and they got 14 there. They got confirmation there. They had 260 bytes in that transaction. This is all, like over my head. I'm not a good propeller head. They generated one input. They have all of this details. You can see all these numbers, and that's the hash that was used to create it. We can see that there were two outputs. You can see, I think this is a block chain address, and you can see this can go on and on and on. Inside, you can drop down into blockchain info. You can see all of the things that went on in there. You can see another ledger entry from when somebody spent some money, blah, 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 all of that stuff, something block cyber, and there's all sorts of stuff in there. So how much fun is that? Who thinks that that's really super duper 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 fun? Kevin's asked, does the miner's work of processing the transaction create a new coin, or does it take a piece of the transaction like a fee? That's what happens. Yes, it takes a piece of the transaction like a fee, and it also creates a new coin. So David's a little bit more of a propeller head than me, it sounds like. He thinks that's fun. I don't think it's really fun. For me, it's kind of like my head just swims with all those things, programming, and I never really got into programming. I tried it for a while. For me, what I think is my idea of fun's more jumping in the snow. This is my fun. These are the charts. This is a thing from Crypto Trader. And what this does is it gives me a nice little app on my phone that, and by the way, David, a lot of the people who are programmers have made incredible amounts of money who like that by doing that. For me, the money is not as important as my own sanity. I just couldn't, I'd get too frustrated doing programming and whatnot. So what we see is here a chart of Bitcoin, BTC versus the US dollar. Maybe I should put up a, I don't think I can move. I'll try something. I just want to try something. This is a new system for me, and I probably am not as good at it as I should have been. And you can see, I don't know if you can see this. Color. You want red. Hopefully you can see on the screen. So this is a normal chart. And if you had have attended the original webinar that I did on Bitcoin and cryptos on Thursday, you'll see that I was saying that it was just stuck in a range in a big triangle. So I look at these charts pretty quickly on the apps now, and they're pretty good fun. But you might explain, see this number here, 5767.3. is the last trade. Sometimes you'll see zero when the market goes fast. You can see up here, the closest offer is at 5767.4 for 2.533 Bitcoin. Now at 5767 Bitcoin, that is only $11,430 or something like that worth of Bitcoin. On the bottom side, there's 12,200 12,253 or thereabouts. 12,283, 12.283 at 57.67. Now the spreads here get very wide when things are active, but that is more in the order of 60,000 on the bid. This is why institutions, aside from the fact they're not usually legal, they're not legally allowed to play with Bitcoin, this is why they haven't got involved. When they do get involved, it will be much more liquid and fun. The reason that it's so good to trade is because it's illiquid and it flies around like crazy. I went to bed last night and it was up here at 59.60 odd, and I was feeling pretty good. And then I woke up in the morning and I see it trading at 57.67, and I think, this is very sad. I'm not as wealthy as I was in the morning, but last night. So what are we talking about here? Number one, write this down. Bitcoin is not liquid. If you want to put $1 million into Bitcoin, you will move the market at least not at 57.67, but it would need to be up much higher than that, towards about 57.90, before you would get $1 million worth of Bitcoin to buy. Is everyone following what I'm saying there? Let me know, okay? So this is Ethereum. And when you see Ethereum, we'll talk about Ethereum's characteristics later and why I think it's not as good as Bitcoin. But Ethereum is trading 295 US dollars. Yeah, I have to be careful with this. Apologies for that. Ethereum is trading at 295 US dollars. And so that 295 US dollars, the next offer here is for one Ethereum. So that's only 295 US dollars. 0.15 of an Ethereum is 3/5 of bugger all. So these are illiquid all the way down. So trading is good for small amounts only, not huge amounts. Are we getting what I'm saying there? Are you understanding what I'm saying there? It's an important point. You're saying the screen's grayed out? Yeah, that's because I'm using the whiteboard. It should be a little bit grey. That's just the system, but you can see through it, I hope. And I think I'll turn this screen off thing. How do I get it off? How do I get it off? How do I get it off? That's how I get it off. Okay, so you should get some reality now. So that's a brief look at Bitcoin and the way that it is. When I first looked at Bitcoin, these prices were displayed with a table of exchanges, and I really didn't understand the way that it moved. It moves differently to the way prices move normally, normal trading prices, because there is a mining process every so often. Okay, so let's talk about ICOs, initial coin offerings. Now, the other day, a young lady hit me up on Facebook, which is always pleasing for a very old man, and she said, what are you doing with your Forex? Because she had obviously looked at my Facebook stuff and said, oh, you're into Forex. And I said, oh, doing a little bit. She said, well, are you into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? And I said, yeah, a little bit. And she said, I said, oh, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm doing this thing called a crypto Autobot. And what it does is it tells me what to buy and sell. and I have to sit there by my phone and make sure that the cell signals are traded. And I said, that doesn't sound like an Autobot to me. But she started talking about the coins, and we'll talk about a little bit of the things that I learned from her in a second. Basically, ICOs are like IPOs for small cap stocks. They're almost like lottery tickets. But basically, they're a way of funding a business for whatever they want to do. Just like Satoshi Nakamoto back in the 3rd of January 2009 started mining his own own coins and provided himself with 10 days worth of mining, then released it to everybody else. And then they started to buy it, and that created a value perception for the Bitcoin that he owned. ICOs, and so he received money for whatever Bitcoin he had or he created during that mining process. In those first 10 days, he was probably mining with other people. So ICOs are simply things we're used to. They're a really cool idea, a cool way to present a new business idea. That's basically it, and get money for it. Now, the advantages for the issuer are they're not regulated. They can advertise and have their friends promote it and share some profit. That's called pump and dump. They can advertise. There's a lot of hype and mystery about the ICOs. And young people who are not used to the share market, because the share market has been a battlefield for their parents and a battlefield for them. And it's been tragic because most of them in high schools at that time, and they think shares stink and they think it's outmoded. And also they've seen their friends make millions of dollars from Bitcoin and millions of dollars from buying coins that have gone up. So it's a way to promote the business and get money. Why do they do it? Because the cost of issuance is low. Now, accountability in the ICOs is either zero or very low. It's based on reputation, but if they've made a lot of money and want to run away, they can. It's very easy. The regulators are not in there protecting people. Now, we all know that regulators like ASIC were famous for being able to prosecute bad people 5 or 10 years after people have lost all their money. And what do? They fine them. They just fined the banks $50 million or $50 million to ANZ. And the people who lost the money don't get the money, but they lost it because of the actions of ANZ. But ASIC gets the money as a fine. So importantly, ICOs require trust, and they're just the same as looking at a business. So the advantages for a buyer are they may get rich quick. They have pump and dump promotions. And so prices can often rocket on the opening or after the opening. And if you're in quick, you can get rich quick and sell out quick. You've got to get in early. So doesn't that remind you of the late 1960s and the early mining boom, the early 70s, the late 1990s, and the mid 1980s? They're all a bunch of cowboys. So we are being told that Bitcoin is a scam by Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. We've been told that by Jamie Dimon that it's bad. We've been told all of these things, but it's simply a way of getting money. So even one of the biggest scumbags in history, finance, Jordan Belfort, says that ICOs are the biggest scam, and it takes one to know one, Mr. Belfort, you asshole. Sorry. Anyway, so what do you need to do with trading Bitcoin? Well, you need a wallet so that you can transfer back and forth to your ownership. That wallet should be, you should probably have two wallets. One is a electronic wallet, which is up in the cloud, so you can move things back and forth quickly. The other one is a hard wallet, which might be best described as a USB key, which goes into your computer, and then you take it offline so that people cannot hack into your main holding of Bitcoin or Ethereum. These things are called Trezor or Nano S's, and they are the ones that will keep your money safer as long as somebody doesn't burgle your house or your house does not burn down. And there are some fireproof ones that you can get as well. You also need a fierce determination to drive costs down and not be screwed. This is important. Now, as an investor, you don't actually need to join an exchange. There are other ways to get involved. If you're trading, you'll need to join an exchange, e.g. Betrix, Bitfinex, Poloniex, Kraken. There's a whole list of them. You also got to get used to having mysterious international transactions and loving people in Czechoslovakia with your money. Now, this is a very decentralized system, and anybody with a computer, internet access, and a bit of common sense or a bit of intelligence can do this. It's all over everybody else. Young people everywhere are into it. Us old people like me took a long time to get in there. You need a strong belly as well, and a smartphone are on the apps. So where I think this started from was where there's the so-called sharing economy, where people used to give donations when others wanted to travel. Like my stepson, he decided he wanted to go to Nepal, so he set up a GoFundMe account or FundMe account and said, donate to me, give me a donation. And what happened was 3,000 Aussie dollars appeared out of all sorts of different sources. So he could go to Nepal and have some fun there and do a little bit of, and what he said was to help some people who had been, disadvantaged in Nepal and build some houses. Now, so for most of that, the people who went in to GoFundMe, they got a T-shirt and a dream. And you'll notice here my little favorite Profit Hunters Group T-shirt, polo shirt. Anyway, here's some tips and advice from me. If you want to trade cryptos and Bitcoin, you need just a second. I need to fix that typo. It's just annoying sometimes when I speak them. I think you want to become a Bitcoin miner or join a miner. That's number one. Because it's like being the casino, the house, the bank, and they give you steady returns that you will not believe. I bought some Bitcoin and I put it with a miner, and the returns I've got are simply stunning. Yes, the Bitcoin price that I got it at was really good compared to where the Aussie Bitcoin was really good compared to where it is now, a lot cheaper. And so I've done well by appreciation, but I'm also getting an earn on those Bitcoin by being with the miners. If you want to ask me about that, this is not part of the talk, but if you want to ask me about that, send me a message and I can show you how that works. Okay, so trading Bitcoin is a bit of a mug's game where you cannot really control your risk or your costs. And what do I mean by that? Everywhere you look, when you are trading these things, there are big spreads involved. Jen, who's on the call here, was showing me how she was trading through CoinJar, and she showed me CoinJar, and there was 150 Australian dollar spread between the bid and offer. So it was like a market maker, like IG Markets, rather than a broker. And so the spread was wide, and Jen got in at a very good price on Bitcoin. And I think she might have made about $700 or $800 on if she had have just been able to trade from where she got in at to where she got out at. But there was a 2% fee or a 1% fee, and the big spread made that her profits, which should have been, actually probably after the spread, your profits should have been around about $1,000. They got reduced to, I think, about just under $500 on that particular trade. I don't quote the stats. You'll have to give me the stats there, Jen. But it wasn't good, and it's something that you have to be very careful about. So I think that really short-term trading Bitcoin in reasonable money, aside from maybe 1 Bitcoin at most or 2 Bitcoin, is a mug's game, because you can't get the liquidity for large amounts, and you're trying to cross spreads and make payments all over the place. So my concept is, if you wish to own Bitcoin, Adam asks, what makes it move? And Jen says, yeah, that's about right. So what do you mean, what makes it move, Adam? Let me know. So I think that if you wish to buy Bitcoin, you buy it for a long time on washouts, which we are having now, a corrective phase. And we'll talk about when I think possibly the when next best to buy in. What makes it move in price, Adam? What makes it move in price is demand. When more young people and when more people are moving in to buy Bitcoin, the price goes up. There's a few reasons why Bitcoin is always in demand, but Bitcoin has, write this down, Bitcoin has only 21 million Bitcoins in its system. At present, you might have seen that, I'll just look it up right now. And I didn't post this up on the screen, so here we go. Here we go. Currently, there are 16.65 million Bitcoins in the system. There is a limit of 21 million. So there's only 4,350,000 Bitcoins available to be mined. Otherwise, after that, there's nothing. And this is the reason they also have forks. When you get a fork, what they do is they give you some money. They give you another coin, usually called Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin something or other. And then they try and improve the programming so the speed can go faster and they can work with different systems. So liken it to Gunsind or Black Caviar. I think they're both mares being put out. They're very good racers. They're very good. They're good. They're going to be breeding. So Bitcoin is like the mothership that provides things. So yeah, that's exactly, Adam. So if there's a limited number of Bitcoins, the price should go up. And if Bitcoin is the benchmark for all of these other coins that are created that try to improve on Bitcoin, then Bitcoin is the one to keep holding and not selling. So investing in Bitcoin and compounding your interest. If you put a Bitcoin in a wallet, it gets no interest. It's like gold. If you lease your gold, you'll get a return on it. So what I do is I'm leasing my Bitcoin to go with the miners, so I get an increased. I get an increase in that in return for what I'm doing. So yes, there's a limited number of Bitcoins. The price will tend to go up. The other good thing about trading Bitcoin and getting involved in Bitcoin is technically, it's brilliant. It just works well. Hands up who's done my, let me know if you've done my Elliott Wave webinars. I haven't done one for a while, which was purely teaching Elliott Wave. People tend to ask me what I think of the markets rather than wanting to learn the way that I think, but I like to teach that as well. It's beautiful the way that it works. It really is. It really is. The charts are just very, very predictable. And I forecast the low at 3,000, and I thought it would go to 59.50 and possibly towards 61.50 and 6,200. Got to 6,180, which was the Fibonacci number. Fantastic stuff. So technically it's very good and nice to trade, but it goes up as well. So ICOs and coins are not necessarily currencies. Why is that? Because most of them can't be exchanged to buy goods and services. And really, the thing that we are looking at in life are simplicity. All right. What we found is that if you wanted to, say if you have a bunch of pens and somebody wants only red pens, but you've got one red, you've got 7 green, you've got 14 blue, really it's hard to exchange and to barter with somebody who doesn't want the thing or won't or can't accept payment in those particular pens because of their system. And so what is happening is they're trying to create a bunch of different cryptocurrencies for payment. It's not going to work. It's kind of like, I want to walk in and buy some, you come into a restaurant in Warrandyte and you've got US dollars. They might give it to you. They might give you a meal on there, but they're going to have a hard time working out what the exchange rate is. And it's just too much bother. So those things go in the tip jar. So basically most ICOs can't be exchanged to buy goods and services. Ethereum and Bitcoin are the most common currencies. There are ones that try to be currencies. I think Neo is also the Chinese Ethereum, and it may have some elements of payment. Kevin says, I hit the 5,500 pullback perfectly too. Thank you. So basically most of them can't be used to buy goods and services. And so it's a true currency. You can buy things with it. You can buy houses. You can buy cars with it. You can do all sorts of things. Ethereum has some qualities which might make it good as a method of exchange also, which we'll talk about that, a thing called smart contracts. So Bitcoin has no value according to Peter Schiff. You should buy gold. Well, why would you buy gold? And I think when a caveman was, I wondered what the caveman would think of gold as value, right? The caveman goes, I've been digging into my cave and I've got this yellow shiny stuff. It's cold. I can't sleep on it. I can't eat it, although the Japanese have found a way to do that. We had some gold champagne in a Japanese restaurant a couple of months ago, with gold flakes in it. I just don't get shit in gold myself, or piss in gold. So would a caveman have thought, somebody comes to him and says, I've got this idea for money. The caveman goes, I'm hungry. Can I eat it? No, you can't. So the whole idea of money is something that only has value. Money or gold only has value unless humans want it. So if there's a demand for it, it's got a value. So once we got out of being subsistence, once out of what we got from being, and we got to better lifestyles, basically we have this perceived value. And Gold, was it worth 1,900 US dollars an ounce back in 2011, 2012? Obviously not, because it's worth $1,290 or $1,260 right now. So everything has value. It's just that there's different perceptions of values. And Peter Schiff says Bitcoin has no value, but millions and millions of people underneath 40 years old believe there's value. Let's talk about Ethereum, aka Ether. Now, it also could be seen as a currency. And like I said before, ICOs are just too confusing. There are literally 1,000 ICOs that I can hit the list on. So the good thing about Ethereum is that it can be linked to the payment system and contracts. So what that means is that all the information that you need to buy a house and settle on a house or sell on a house and pay for that house or receive payment for that house can be put in to an Ethereum contract. So a piece of Ethereum can, in theory, hold the information from the councils, the state governments, lawyers, legals, all of that sort of stuff, and it can go into making the payment and settling on your house, settling the registration on your car, and making the transfer and making payment all at the same time when everybody's met all of the conditions. The good thing with Ethereum is it can process transactions faster than Bitcoin because it's an evolution of the concept of Bitcoin. Now, there's a couple of things with Ethereum. It's been given away free, as Kevin quite quizzically quipped. Been given away free to university students at University of New South Wales. It can also be used in the University of New South Wales cafeteria, but aside from that, I don't know too many places that take Ethereum. A lot more people take Bitcoin than Ethereum. So we have a potentially unlimited money supply with Ethereum. What does that mean? Adam quite correctly pointed out that if there's a limited number of Bitcoins, the price should only go up if there's demand, right? So if demand continues. Ethereum doesn't have that limitation. So it makes depreciation pretty easy in things in the Ethereum world. So recently, it's completely underperformed and underwhelmed versus Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin forks off, there's usually a little bit of worry before that, and then it goes up into that because people hold on to the Bitcoin. They want to wait for the money that comes out, whether it's Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, or B2X, which is going to be the new version after approximately November 15th, depending on the exact blockchain number of SegWit 2X. Now, I'm speaking some crypto language. And according to SegWit.2X, you can see over here that the block number is 786. That's when SegWit 2X splits. So what that means is currently the last block number is, or at least I can go back to the one that I saw last night, but the one that was just processed, according to my little happy app, is that the Bitcoin block number was 492,027. So we have about 4,000 blocks to go before. So it's not based on exact time. It says that this SegWit 2X which was mean that the block, instead of being a 1 megabyte block, will become an 8 megabyte block. Are you enjoying what I'm saying here? So that's the complexity, but this upgrade will create a fork where money will be split. So you'll have Bitcoin, and you'll have Bitcoin 2x or B2X, the code will be. And if you're holding Bitcoin at that time, you will see in your wallets that you will receive 2 sets of money, in effect, or 2 sets of Bitcoin types. And it's hoped that the 8 megabyte blockchain, the block size, will improve processing and speed it up, and they hope that the new block will become something that will take over Bitcoin. In the past, with Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, we haven't seen this being effective, so it's probably not going to be as effective. But Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin at that time in your wallets, preferably offline, will be the thing to do, and you should end up with 2 sets of different money. Now, what happens with when there's a fork is there's a depreciation. The last fork we saw was Bitcoin Gold, and Bitcoin Gold in the futures market is something like $468, and we saw Bitcoin fall from, after the fork, which was around here, it fell from being around 6,000 odd, it fell down to 5,400 or 5,366, which kind of compensates for that fork. Now it's rallied back up to 5,776. So those people who had one Bitcoin now have a Bitcoin valued at $5,776 and one Bitcoin Gold valued at $470, which is approximately $6,200. So it's the entire combination, if you've still kept it, is up here in terms of price. So that's like what would that be? That would be like what they did with National Australia Bank and Clydesdale Bank. So Ethereum ain't Bitcoin, and guess what? Ethereum requires major upgrades all the time, and sometimes these are called forks. Cryptocurrencies have cool logos, and they don't do them justice or are inconsistent, but we do have some fun with it, really, don't we? Here's a little thing on Coin Ticker, and you can see these. Actually, I'll do this here. Let's do this here. Hopefully I can go to the next one. See, Bitcoin has a little B, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, VTC, Zcoin, XML, no idea what that is. Oh my God. Stellar Luna, Strata, Tix. Oh, this is pretty cool. All sorts of stuff. These are all the coins. You can do your head in by looking at the coins. And you can have some pretty ones. And you'll see that Bitcoin often has a different thing. This is Bitcoin Gold. You've got all these sort of, everyone just puts them up. So basically, here's the problem. Like the tech wreck, like the 1960 mining boom, there'll be carcasses everywhere if you don't get it right in this. ICOs are full of things like pump and dumps. There are people who buy in at the top. There's an example here of an ICO called Zcash. All right. Now, looks like an interesting basing chart, does it not? If we go for a monthly chart, you'll see something in this chart. It started off at $20,000. It's now trading at $244. What that means is you're screwed. You're screwed if you bought it up here, or if you thought you bought the dip. You say you thought, oh, well, it opened at 20,000, I'll buy it at 10,000. You're still screwed. Oh, it went through 10,000. I'll buy it at 4,000 or 5,000. You're still screwed. Be very careful. Now, Zcash might be a wonderful thing, but there's big interests at play. Here's a stock called, here's an ICO called, on CoinDesk, I found a link to start your own coin. Wait for it. Kevin Coin will rule them all. My precious. Here's EOS. Now, EOS is being promoted by some people who hang out with the Dollar Vigilante. It got up to just under 5,500 or $5.50. It's now living down at 51, $5.58. Now, it's been heavily promoted. It might be useful. It's supposed to be better than Ethereum in some things. Be careful. What about, so all of these things, we can look at charts later, but it's important that, you know, there are millionaires and millionaires being made over and destroyed overnight, just as quickly as they're made. So you want to hang on to the money. So what I suggest you do is to get involved with the mining, because I'm just amazed at how consistent the returns I'm getting from being involved with the miners are. Like I said, I'm not going to show you about the miners. I'm not going to, but it's better, way better than getting dividends, and because it's compounding almost every day. And there'll be tiers. There'll be, and like every bubble, the winners are at the promoters and the suppliers. So you have to be careful with the way that you have it. You have to be careful how you relate to the miners and the promoters and the suppliers. If you like to have your bottoms burnt and don't want to eat chili, then buying ICOs is probably the best way to get chilies. Get your bottoms burnt. You need to know how to get out. I believe that Bitcoin, some of its spin-offs will be here into the future, well into the future. Most of the little ICOs will not. So you need to know how to get on, right? So there are ramps and manipulations, and some of the people who promote these schemes call them, we are doing market manipulation. In the real world, you would be slapped and fined if you said that, but in ICOs, it seems to be fine. So we've seen people get rich in the 1960s. We've seen them get rich in the roaring 20s, only to be destroyed in the following bear market. So if you don't learn that the history proves that booms are followed by real busts in finances, this is the way to go. You're going to have a lesson learnt. Young people have not had their bottoms whipped. They've had lots of money poured on them by their parents, and then lots of money poured on them by the Bitcoin world and the ICO. So when they're talking about pump and dump and bragging that they manipulate markets, these things are illegal in the normal world. Promoters also get a slice of the action for promoting ICOs. They are called pools. Let's talk about something else which is a little bit uglier. What does this remind you of? Banks, they take fees. I can transfer overseas and it'll take 3 days to send money across. They'll charge me $22 in the CBA to make an international transfer. They'll probably charge me a 500-point spread on US dollars. They will also probably take money out from the people who are receiving the bank. So they charge big fees to send payment, and it takes 3 or 4 days to arrive, and you're sweating where the money's gone for those 3 or 4 days. The difference is in Bitcoin, a transaction, if it's normal and regular, can take 1 to 2 minutes at best to arrive and get paid. If I'm sending something via the via internet payment service in Australia. It's free via the banks and it costs nothing and you don't have any extra charges. What's ugly about the Bitcoin world is the fees. Just as an example, Bitcoin Visa is available out of Singapore and it charges you, not the merchant, 2% to withdraw money or to use it. And you can bet your bottom dollar the merchant will be paying merchant fees too. What that means is when you think of Bitcoin, think of 2%. It's like the hedge funds of old. 2%, 20%, 2%, 20%. Hedge funds used to charge 2% on your money just for doing nothing. That's the days of that are gone. But the Bitcoin miners and the payment systems do like to charge 2% for transactions. Some of them do 1%, but generally think 2%. And your job is to find those ones that don't charge that big. So most cryptocurrencies charge in the realm of, I've seen as high as 5% for moving your money around. And so here, where does the money go? Well, firstly, it goes into the crypto companies' hands, but Bitcoin miners will charge different fees on a Bitcoin transaction. So the miner gets between the sender and the receiver for mining fees. They're not called bank charges, they're called mining fees. And the miner is the one that's pulling the strings in these markets. Yes, things like CoinJar do make charges, but they also blame the miners. When the miners are busy, they do not fulfill transactions that have low fees. They go for filling the ones that have high fees because there's only limited processing time in each block. So they put it in a queue and there's a thing called unfulfilled transactions. And what that means is things can go missing. So my advice is in this business, don't move your money around often. If you are trying to trade Bitcoin in and out, in and out, in and out, you will burn yourself a hole so fast that it's ridiculous. You have to be swinging for the 20 to 30% moves to cover those costs if you are doing that. Is everyone understanding what I'm saying there? I am feeling like an old grandfather when I talk like this, but I think it's bloody important to understand what you're dealing with when you are faced with it. Everyone says, oh, the banks, they're terrible. Oh, the banks, they're terrible. They charge fees. You know, they're happy to slam the banks. They're doing the same things. So my advice also is to make sure you're not paying too many fees by not moving around or doing the right thing. Let me know. Can you hear me? Are you alive? Have I put you all to sleep? So put it in and let it grow and only change if you really have to. Sorry, Algo, I hope you saw that. Okay. So a lot of this stuff reminds me of banks purely and simply, and you see the criticism of banks by the rabid crypto community saying the banks are evil, they're terrorists, all that sort of stuff, and they steal off you. Well, payment system. And as Jen says the fees are not transparent in the transactions. Okay, IG has reasonable spreads now, $20 for the buying and selling. Let's go back to what I just showed you there, Kevin, on Bitfinex. And I don't know how much money you're trading, but let's go and have a look at that spread here, just to show you how much IG are taking on. This is in Bitfinex, and the spread on this one between 12 Bitcoin to 2 Bitcoin was 10 cents, not $20. So they're giving you leverage and stuff, but you know, if you're buying 2 or 3 Bitcoin, IG are providing a little bit of a packet to their wallet. You know, sometimes the spreads blow out, admittedly, but IG will adjust their spreads when they do that. So market maker, I know you've got an account with IG and trade through them, that, you know, and so it's probably useful to do that. But you know, the $20 spread is probably good when you consider that if there's no other transaction fees, that's okay. So is that a CFD on Bitcoin? So it's just a contract for difference, like the bucket shops normally do? It's good to know. I'm also finding out a lot from PHG members about how they're doing. I know Awanda doesn't trade Bitcoin either. There's a few. Okay, so don't do churning and burning your money. Now, on what Kevin was saying too here is a $20 spread is doable when it's been up to $6,000, just under $6,000 last night, and down to 57.27. A $20 spread is good. But Kevin, if you do, IG markets work on the basis, and all of the bucket shops work on the basis that CFDs, that the trader is wrong. So we saw that with CMC when they used to, you know, they'd sit there and get offered different prices. They assume that 80% of their traders will be wrong and lose money. So they hold a lot of their positions. But if you give them a big enough position, the volume will push out and the spread will push out, because they have to hedge that. If they think that you're actually a good trader, they'll have different pricing for you, etc. So, you know, CMC was a very clear case of that. And IG probably is a bit more moral on that basis, but the spreads will have to widen out depending on your volume. So you need very large ranges. I reiterate that to cover the cost of transaction. If Kevin is trading with a $20 spread in Bitcoin on IG, that would mean that if it doesn't move and he wants to sell Bitcoin and it's 57.37 trading at the moment, then he would have to sell, he would get a price from IG markets to sell at 57.17. And if it went back up, sorry, 57.20, yeah, 57.17. And if it went back up, it would have you'd be getting out at 57.37. So crossing the spread is the one. They will bet against you on a big bet. Yeah, that's right. So crossing that spread, you can do that with 20 bucks, as long as you're getting at least a $200 range or $400 range is good. So those costs are really important. Now, when you transfer money out of, say, a CoinJar account, they can also charge you money for sending it away because of the mining fees. So here's my conclusion. The Bitcoin mining is the way to go. I think mining is more stable. It's better income than trading. What my suggestion is, be a miner, join a miner, and trade your profits in the ICOs for profit, for fun. Now, what do I mean by for fun? Well, the reality is you can have a lot of fun with these things, and they will make you money if you analyze the businesses correctly. And the consistency of returns in being a miner at the moment is very, very strong. So joining some of those pools, there's ways to do it. And let me if you want to know, just send me an email, and I can certainly help you out with that and the way things work. So I think I can send that in the chat box. You all probably know my email address anyway. You all know the website. I'll put it up there anyway. You want to get a hold of me, just do it to Profit Hunters. And we'll have some questions. I do want you to be really clear with this. It can be risky, but for some reason, the returns I'm getting on a consistent basis are just wonderful. Now, I'll go through a couple more of the little questions. Does anyone have any specific questions they want to ask me? We have about 10 minutes to go, and I'll open it up for questions now. So here's my tips and advice. Become a miner. Be the casino, be the bank, because mining fees are very certain. You don't want to be the mug in the casino. I didn't go into a casino and do any gambling until I was something like 48, when I understood how to play blackjack, so I didn't get hurt. I'm quite conservative, even though I do my trading in futures, foreign exchange, options, commodities. I do think you should buy for a long term, not a good time, in Bitcoin, and hold it and keep it as the mothership, keep it as that breeding mare that will produce offspring that will give you profits that you can work with. Do the mining, get the percentages, and I still believe that Bitcoin is good if you can trade it on low costs. There are risks with putting money with the exchanges, because the exchanges can disappear. So make sure your money, when you're trading with exchanges, if you are, that you are with exchanges that you can rely that the regulators won't shut it down, which they did in China. Recently, they shut down all the exchanges in China. The exchange is reputable, and that the exchanges won't steal your money and don't charge you too much. I've seen exchanges charge you large amounts for keeping positions overnight that are leveraged, which they lend. Leverage means they will lend you money against it. Okay, so what would you like to do? Any questions on Bitcoin? Okay, so the next Bitcoin fork comes up in November. Is everyone aware of that? Around about November 15th is the estimated time of forking the ETF, November 16th. Now, the last fork was a quick one. It came quicker than normal, or than they expected. And I believe that's because the processing is getting a bit faster. The definition of mining is the creation of a Bitcoin. That's what it is. Definition of mining is a creation of a Bitcoin. And miners charge fees on their own ability for you to make payments through their payment systems. So mining fees appear everywhere, and they're used as an excuse by a lot of people. This is the chart of Bitcoin. Bitcoin down in 2015 was down at low stuff around $235. So how do one create Bitcoin if they're in limited numbers? Okay, this is a little bit not my area. I'll give you my general old fart idea about it. Bitcoin is created when a problem is solved. When somebody, and they have increasing problem solving. So when a problem is solved, mathematical problem is solved, the Bitcoin is created. And they call that complexity. So more complicated it is, the harder it is to create Bitcoins. So what they have created is these machines which just sit there, and they're called mining machines. And I'll pause. And you can see here, okay? These are mining machines all put together. This is a miner, this is a miner, this is a miner. That's called an ant miner, which processes things. This is big blocks of miners, right? So this is all mathematical computations, and these are the sort of things that I believe putting money into is the way to go, okay? So they are solving the problems and they're working hard on it. Now, obviously, electricity is the big cost. The computer equipment is the big cost, and also you need to cool it. And so they gravitate to, the miners tend to gravitate into China, which has cheap electricity because they're using cheap Australian coal, I guess, and Iceland, which uses the geothermic geysers and stuff that they have in Iceland. And so those things, you know, an ant miner might cost you about $3,000 US or thereabouts, if I'm correct. And there's ASIC miners and all sorts of things. So Andrew is asking, do you think there will be a shift in fee pricing? Will banks get seriously involved to have some skin in the game? It's a very good question. The answer is they're probably interested in it, but at the moment, because they deal with such large transactions and scale, that it's actually not efficient for them until it works properly. So will there be a shift in fee pricing? The answer is probably, when there are so many miners that they start competing over one another for processing. But at the moment, the actual limitation is the amount of blocks that can be created at any one time, the amount of processes that can be created at any one time. We got any other questions? None of them are moral. Okay, there's a thing which is chat question and answers. Okay, so Bitcoin has some pretty serious targets up to 6,105, which we've seen. That high level, 6,570. Next big targets. Let's see if we can find some other ones. Now, this is an uptrend. Has anyone done any charting? This is an uptrend in Bitcoin. It's gone hyperbaric. Jen says, Leon, yes, you will be sent a copy of the email if you registered, which you've done. You'll get emailed the link, Leon. So you said you doubled your money in a month. Didn't you? Yep. Does that mean for 1 Bitcoin it's now worth 2 Bitcoin? That's correct. Well, technically no. Technically no, Jen. It doesn't mean for one Bitcoin. It's because of the appreciation in the Bitcoin price in Aussie dollars. Okay, I understand the question better. I've doubled my money in Aussie dollars, over doubled my money in Aussie dollars in a month, because I invested Aussie dollars and I benchmark off the Aussie dollar. I'm going to keep it in Bitcoin, but the appreciation in price has helped, and the compounding of the reinvestment has been helping as well. Do miners need any assets to be legit? The answer is they need that equipment that you just saw to do the work and to solve the problems. So the answer is yes, they need equipment, but they also need Bitcoin, and they need to put up money, and that's why it's pooled. So in a Bitcoin transaction, there are miners, and the miners compete to solve the problem. The more money they put on the table, when the problem is solved, the more of the Bitcoin they will get as a percentage. So they might put in, I don't know, 50% of the money onto the table, and in return, the biggest miner will get maybe 60% of the Bitcoin that is solved and created. The exact technicalities of that is a bit beyond me, but the better the pool, the more money you are likely to get. Okay, so now the risk is the Bitcoin miners are, they're not real or true, so you have to be careful, absolutely careful, with who is a Bitcoin miner and who you're investing with as a pool. Andrew asks, does your trade strategy include FX exchange value, e.g. buy in US dollars and sell in Aussie? I chart in terms of US dollars, and I look at it technically in terms of US dollars. The Aussie dollar depreciation has been a bonus, which it actually, my calculations haven't included the last drop. I've been basing my Aussie dollar price off 78 cents, and I think it's sitting around about 76.50 at the moment. So where are we? So the answer is yes and no to that question, Andrew. I think it's 76.50. Yeah, so it's 76.50 at the moment. I'm still sitting with my calculations at 78. So there's an extra 2 cents that I haven't factored into that doubling. Okay. So does my trade strategy, if people are looking to get into Bitcoin and to do timing, we have to think a bit carefully. There was a fork. Where was that exact time? I think there was a fork around here, and it dropped off. There was a closure of the Chinese exchanges and some Korean exchanges, I think, around this time, and it dropped off. So you want to see panics. This is when I was looking for 3,000. My friend had told me about this when it was back in July. It was 1,900 or something like it. It had dropped down into the 900. I was trying to work out how to get payments across and do that sort of stuff. I didn't do it. It didn't work. I couldn't understand the payment system, but now I worked it out. So I would have been happier at 1,900, but I was pretty happy getting in just after it got in at that 3,000. It jumped quite hard. So you can see good 5-wave structures in the upside. It's making 5-wave structures. Probably the next up will have a bigger correction back down to 4,500, 4,800. But at the moment, it's my strategy is US dollar based versus Bitcoin. Are there any other questions? I think we're at 10:36 a.m. And And if you want to learn about the miners that I'm using and stuff like that, just email me at David. So yeah, thank you all for attending, and I hope you got. Sorry about if you went to the Facebook one last week and didn't have a Facebook account during the week. It was my first or second one on Facebook, and I didn't realise people not on Facebook couldn't attend the webinar. Thought the software would work. So I'd love your feedback on it. Send me some info. If you are wanting to get my advice on cryptos, or at least get my calls on cryptos, then you're looking at membership. The silver membership will have it, but there is another membership specifically for cryptocurrencies, and it's $97 per month. And cryptocurrency review, that's a special offer, as it's normally $197 per month. So if you want that, send me an email. I don't display it on the website. Email me for the subscription. And that's David at hunters.com.au. Okay, I might put that in. I need to think about something else. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. I hope you've enjoyed it, and let me know if you've got your needs met. Give me some feedback, please. I would appreciate that. And I will talk to you later. Have a good one, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Adam.